Welcome to Sports Connection. I'm Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director, here with Mr. Tate Mathews. Tate, kind of a bittersweet day today, not only because we just fall short in the state championship game in 5A football. Page with a valiant effort. They lose to Knoxville West 24-19. But as you would say, because it's over. Now, we got an all-star game that you're involved with, Tate.
That's right. We got the TAC East-West All-Star game this Friday, and we're well represented in it. The No Excuses squad will be up there with DJ Curl and the crew, but and others, a lot of others from Wilco. But, yeah, it's sad, man. Football's over. 2023 season's over. And Paige, I thought third time was the charm. Gosh, so close, but what's the saying? Don't be sad that it ended. Be glad that it happened. So that's the way I'm going to choose to look at the 2023 football season.
Very well said, Tate. And back to the All-Star game real quick. I saw where I guess it was Bill Marbett and the boys, which probably wasn't Mr. Marbett.
It wasn't.
They sent the video out with the gear. The gear looks good, man.
It was Coach Plummer. Now, Mr. Marbett pays the bills and gets it done, but yes, the Twitter video of all the Adidas gear that and you know, it's just what it is. There's no other All-Star game where the kids and the coaches get taken care of as well as the TAC East-West All-Star game, and that is Mr. Marbett. But the video was shot by Coach Plummer.
Do you think if we had a tweeter competition, I'm saying that because of who's in it.
Yes.
And we'll say who is the least able to use X, not Twitter, Scott Blade or Mr. Marbett, who would be the? I think Coach Blade can do more than he would.
Coach Blade, because Coach Blade chooses not
Right.
to do it. Mr. Marbett, Coach Marbett,
He can't do
is
it.
very intelligent, but I don't think he could ever, at this point in his life, get his arms around Tweeter, X, whatever you want to call it. I think Blade it became kind of like his shtick.
I think so too.
He would even say, hey, he would be talking about a text, and he'd say, hey, I'm going to send you a tweet. I refuse to believe he doesn't know the difference.
I agree.
Mr. Marbett's kind of like Coach Mathews. You know the story. He thought that Google was subscription-based, so he would actually ask you, like, do you have Google?
We all do.
Everybody has Google. That's Mr. Marbett.
All right, let's jump into this game. Again, 5A football state championship at Finley Stadium, which I'm growing to love, by the way.
I do too.
Page 19, Knoxville West 24. The Patriots come up 5 yards short of a state title. Again, their third straight trip to the final. It was big momentum swing. Page started off, and when you looked at sort of the tail of the tape before the game, pretty evenly matched in terms of the statistics and the veterans on their teams and some of those kind of things. But Page proved early that they were able to move the ball better than West, and as it turns out, we'll look at the stats here in a minute, that held up throughout the game. They get that 7-0 lead, but then Knoxville West comes storming back 24 straight, and really it looked like it was over.
Yes.
But Page hung in there. Let's talk about how those scores happened. So Page, 38-yard touchdown pass from Jonathan Palmer to Isaac Power. That was late in the first quarter. Then Knoxville West got a big 4th-and-1 stop, and it was deep in the Page territory. They turned it over on downs. And again, hey, listen, those that like to sit up in the crowd and critique and do some of those things, Page thought, we can do it. This will be a great momentum shift. And I would even say this was happening. The way they were dominating defensively, I believe they felt like they could stop them anyway.
That's right.
Which they were doing. So I know it's easy for people to, after a game, armchair quarterback things, but I just don't think that's fair. You and I talked this before the show. People used to ask me as a coach, hey, Coach, that didn't work. Would you do it the same next time? Like, what do you think? I've got some kind of learning problem here? No, I would not try the same thing again knowing it didn't work.
But you're telling me it's not, I know ahead of time it's not going to work. Yeah. Well, and yeah, man. I mean, of course, he thought about all those things, you know. And there was a very similar situation in one of the games on Thursday, And that head coach went for it on 4th and 1 in his territory, and they got it, and they broke it for a touchdown. Where everybody's talking about what a great call that
Right.
was. I mean, that's part of being the head coach. Sometimes you got to make those calls. Sometimes they go your way. Sometimes they don't. So, of course, no. If he thought it was not going to work, he wouldn't call that. But, and again, had they picked it up, man, what a call. Riverboat gambler, aggressive.
That's right.
I like it.
That's right.
Take the fight to them.
Right. Well, as a wise man said to me recently, if you want to do it, get yourself a certification and a whistle and a job, and you can make the calls.
That's right.
Until then, we'll leave it to
Really not that hard.
we'll leave it to the coaches.
A lot of you people are really successful, so it shouldn't be too hard for you to get a certification. And I'll supply the whistles.
So, I know some of that's natural, but it's part of it. And what happens in coaching is this. You make the best decision at the time that it's happening.
That's right.
And you don't have the benefit of listening to the radio or listening to the TV guys. There's a lot going on.
A lot going on. And you have a short amount of time to make that decision. And you've got one of the best defenses around. So like you said, we have a great offensive line. We thought we could get it in 2. We trust our defense.
It's the way it goes.
It's the way it goes sometimes.
So Knoxville, there were several big plays in this game. So Knoxville West scores there. West scores. They go up, or they tied at 7. They get a field goal, and then at the end of the half, I thought this was maybe the biggest play. They score on like a 38-yard, 40-yard. I may mess this up a little bit, but as the time was ending,
That was tough.
for the first, I think it was 37-yard pass. That makes it 17-7. And then West is going to get the ball. So Knoxville West gets the ball, 17-7. You're thinking, okay, if Page can get a stop and then they can score points, it's fine. They didn't get a stop and they didn't score, and it's like, this is over.
Yep.
24-7. But man, give it to Page, Tate. They fought back after being down 24-7.
Sure did against, the 5A state champion, but also you look at their schedule. They're one of the best teams. I think they're a top 10 team in the state in all classifications. So to come back and fight like that and have a chance to win, you're right. There shouldn't have been any reason to question the resilience of this team anyways, but just one more example of just how, they just never gave up and almost pulled it off. But you're right, I thought that too. That one at the end of the half was, if we're talking about a backbreaker, that was the one.
And again, I may speak out of turn here, but I believe that was the possession where it was a reception, we rip it away. I'm saying we, it's Page versus Knoxville West. And then Knoxville West rips it right back.
Right. Haynes got the interception.
It was the same possession, I believe.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, what a play. I can't remember that kid's name, but what a play by that young man. But I mean, everything just happened. You know what I'm saying? Anything, if he brings that ball down a second later.
That's right.
It was like it was meant to be. That play couldn't be replicated if they tried 2,000 more times.
So,
But great effort. As a coach, don't ever give up.
that was a great effort.
What if that guy had given up?
Like the Iowa guy.
That's right.
Everybody's looking at that thing.
Yeah.
Against Michigan where it's punt return or something. Yep. So the defense, and they had to do it, the rest of the game, dominant. Didn't give them anything. They get a score, Page doesn't. Here's what I liked about what Page did. So Knoxville West started kind of taking away what Page was trying to do. You saw some running room for Palmer. He's not the runner that Weebush is, so they put Weebush. I mean, Palmer had some great runs.
He did. Some great scrambles.
Then they stick Weebush in there, and it's a called run, and then it just seemed to open things up. So great job by Page and the offense changing it up. Got a touchdown run by Weebush late in the third, and then a Palmer to Presley Kozark touchdown to cut it to 24-19 with 9:22 left. It was amazing that they got it down to that with that much time left. They end up taking over at the end of the game, 3:22 left. They get the ball on their own 48, have a great drive all the way inside the 5-yard line, and again, Knoxville West stepped up, Tate.
I thought they were going to get it in. I mean, I know they had to burn some timeouts earlier in the half. That's part of the game. I don't know what. That's the other thing too. I've learned this. Who does the Sunday night games? Is it Chris Collinsworth? I saw something about Mahomes, and he's exactly right. The quarterback threw that to the wrong spot. Well, maybe it's what it looked like. But we don't know what the call was. We don't know what that. Sometimes maybe the wide receiver ran the route wrong, right? So I don't know what was going on inside those headsets or what was going on for those timeouts to be called. But you got a guy who's taken you to 3 straight state finals in 5A. I think he knows how to manage a game. I don't know why the timeouts were. So all that to be said, we get down there, we're out of timeouts, but I still thought they were going to punch that thing in. Getting behind that line, the success they've had with Weebush and running it. Probably what I would have done too. I mean, I don't know. You get in and you're a genius. You don't.
Well, here's the fact of the matter. What have they been able to do?
Run the ball.
So you're going to try something different?
Right.
I mean, I understand. So again, people can be critics. They can talk about it later and all this kind of stuff. I've just never bought into that. I've been there personally as a coach, so I get it. But it's not as simple as people think it is.
No.
And there's more to it than they think in terms of your decision making and those kind of things. So, again, congratulations to them. I would say this too. If you would have shown most of these stats to me before the game, I would have said Page is going to win. First downs, Page, 19-8. Total yards, 369 to 183.
That's hard to believe.
Page. Time of possession, 25 to 22. Page. Third down conversions, 7 out of 13, 5 out of 16. Page. But there's a couple that stand out, Tate, and that is penalties. They have 7 penalties for 55 yards, which is not much, but Knoxville West had 0. And then the turnovers. Yep. Those 2 things to me really stand out as the difference in the game. But that's what happens when teams are really close. Those are the things that make the difference.
Yeah, and the 4th downs as well. Knoxville West, 2 for 2 4th downs. This came down to the last play of the game. All those things, right? That's where all that play didn't matter. In a game like this, every play matters, and then those helped as well. And again, I was heartbroken too. Knoxville West is really good. They beat some really, really good teams, and it was just 2 really good. I think more than any. Well, no. Maybe Baylor, McCallie. I think out of the 9 championship games, if these 2 teams played, it'd probably be 10 times. It'd probably be 5-5.
Yeah, it was close. Some guys who had great games. Calvin Katarba.
Big time game.
Man, it was unbelievable. 12 receptions, 96 yards. Some of those. Now listen, Page on defense, they've got like 9 guys coming back.
That's right.
So
they're losing some players, but they got a lot of really good ones.
They'll be okay. I loved it that O'Connell stepped up. The thing about O'Connell, he really could have. It'd been easy just to go, you know what?
Yep.
I'm going to not play this year, but he waited to the right time. Obviously, he was still feeling the effects of an injury, but he hung in there, played anyway because he wanted to play with his teammates. Man, he played great. He did. So Palmer, I thought, did a good job stepping in. First year as a starter. All the way to the championship game, did a nice job. Ethan Cunningham obviously had a nice year. Hey, and little brother Sean,
he's going to be a player.
He made some plays on defense. He really did. So
Isaac Power is going to be. Isaac missed. I don't know, probably starting about week 7, maybe week 8. He had been out, came back. The first touchdown you were talking about, that was a nice catch and run, made the move and got it in there. He's an athlete. We know about him through basketball, but he's going to be a big-time playmaker for him next year. They've got a lot of good ones coming back. And then you mentioned Palmer. Take out the interceptions. You look at 21 for 31 and 3 touchdowns, 216 yards in a state championship game. That's pretty dang good, So turnovers got them. It's just tough. That's it's feast or famine, right? One side's elated, and the other side's devastated. That's sports sometimes.
welcome to the to athletics. Hey,
That's right.
Here's a question for you. Again, we don't want to look too quickly to next year, but does Weebush pull a Hurd? Remember, Hurd was playing deep. McNamara comes in, so Hurd's like, no problem. I play defense. I'd like to play QB, but whatever. I'm going to do whatever it takes for the team. Then his senior year, he becomes the quarterback. Weebush, I think Coach Temple was like, I know you want to play. Come over to the defense. And he played great. What's he do? Is he going to try to be the QB? It'd be interesting. I would say it's probably Weebush at quarterback, but who knows?
Well, in the world of, here we are talking about it again, transfer portal. I think what Hurd would have done that senior year is if we had a quarterback who came in and gave him a better chance, he'd have been the quarterback and they'd have gone the other way. I think it is TBD. But here's the great thing. If one doesn't move in, we know we can put Weebush on there and win. So TBD, to be determined.
I think they could be back again.
Well, I mean, the defense, that's what's kind of been funny is they've been out, not funny, but that's what was neat about this year is offense, I feel like the previous 2 years carried them. I feel like they were, more, they still had a good offense, but more of a defensive squad this year. So the defense is going to be lights out again next year.
In the previous 2 championships, they gave up 42, 43.
Right.
And they gave up 24, and, the Hail Mary at the end of the half, the short field, the turnovers. There were some things, again, you look at those total yards, unbelievable. Hey, I want to finish with this. I thought it would be good for Page. Let's finish with the gym for Page High School. Page, 38-7 over the past 3 years. So that's part of the gym. Good. But I thought it was interesting who they lost to. 3 state championships. Okay, Powell, Knoxville West twice, Nolensville, and 3 times to Independence. I'd forgotten it was 3 in a row.
Me too. 6A.
Right, but good for them for playing them.
It makes you better, man. It just does. It makes you better. And that Nolensville was a overtime loss, if memory serves me correct.
And then they got them back.
At Nolo.
And they got them back in the play. Remember, we were there for game day. Man, was that place rocking.
Awesome.
That's the one where Coach Rathbone said, this is not, we want to win tonight, but
this isn't the one.
This isn't the one for, and I thought that was he'll throw a little dig in there.
Oh, yeah.
Gets his 100th win this year. Great year for Coach Rathbone. Doing a great job, and I've said it many times, when I think of Page, I think of Coach Rathbone.
I do too, man.
Done a great job there.
Yeah.
12 years in the books as a head coach. So
was an assistant for Coach Palmer, Coach Daniels. He's Page.
He's Page. Real quick, and I won't spend much time on this.
You should.
No, I did.
It's newsworthy.
I feel like I did enough last week. Sore winner. So final standings for Pick'ems, and just so we can get this in again, we want to thank you guys for voting all year on X. Dr. Qualls in his normal spot. He was last with 69 wins. Tate Mathews, third, which is 2 lower than he's ever finished.
Yes.
70 wins. The fans, the armchair quarterback, so to speak, he gets 71 wins. And then the district athletic director with 74. I wonder if I could just retire from this. We'll just make Coach Brees, who I know loves the show, maybe we'll just make
Let him take over picking. Hey, Brees is pretty good. He's on that website that sets the lines too. So, we'd have to, might be some outside influence. But
listen, we don't need a guy who knows the lines on the high school games to be a part of the.
I know, but he'll be using it. He'll be getting inside information from the pundits. But congratulations. When you stepped into this role and started the picking, everybody talked about how you were a basketball guy. By the way, great segue. I tuned in for the first, as much of the first half as I could. I had swim meet obligations, but heard you and Joe Williams on WAKM 950 calling the game. Thought you did a great job. Pre-game, you said it was going to come down to turnovers, penalties. What was the other one?
Special teams.
Special teams, and I think you pretty much nailed that. So you're becoming quite the football expert.
Well, I appreciate, Joe asking me, but obviously I was probably like the 9th call. I couldn't really offer
Please
much.
tell me you were before Storm.
I couldn't offer much in terms of, the nuances, but I love Wilco. And I love saying we on the broadcast.
At least you weren't screaming wheel route.
Who do you think will be doing that?
The guy that used to host this show. Look for the wheel route. Look for the wheel route.
He loves when that happens too.
Oh, man.
All right, Tate, so football's in the books. We're going to talk some other sports here today. Let's start off. Last week we mentioned bowling. It's a tournament that went over a couple weeks. It'll finish up this week. It's chalk. Right now on the girls' side, it'll be Creekwood Independence. That's 1 versus 4. Dixon 2, Franklin 3. That's the semis. On the boys' side, Dixon 1, Ravenwood 4, Creekwood 2, Franklin 3. And really the Franklin boys did a little investigating. The Franklin boys have our best shot. They've got they're a couple men down actually.
What? Yeah,
Couple
something's
injuries.
not adding up here. Okay.
Couple injuries. Couple of injuries.
Elbow? Wrist?
Well, one, I know we got hip. I don't know if I can say the injury and not the person, but just some injuries that you couldn't bowl.
Got
Two.
to be honest with you.
Never heard of that?
And I know I can say this because it's well documented on this show. We are huge fans of bowling. That's a tough one to swallow, man. Like, what do you mean? Unless it's wrist, elbow, I don't know what it is that could keep you out.
So I'm not going to judge.
But I understand.
But
you can't talk about
Here's
it.
what I would say. So I was talking to Coach Logan about this. I'm like, man, we've been dominating these people, and all of a sudden we join together, and it's the year that we can't.
Yeah.
He said it'll be fine. Okay. He said the middle school is really, we got middle school bowling. He said that's starting to really come into play.
I mean, we were this time last year talking about how watch out Hardin County. We're coming for the state championship, and now we got
Trying to get out of the district.
we're trying to get out of the Dixon County.
I know.
I mean, Dixon County is one thing. Creekwood, that's
Listen,
they got to drive to Clarksville to get to a bowling
when
alley.
it's all said and done, it'll be fine. I did want to mention this. So this has changed. Now there's an individual tournament, and before they did like this, these sections came together. It's different. Now it's a region tournament.
Love it.
Which I think is great. 6 bowlers qualify from the region tournament straight to the state tournament. We only had one. Gabe Rossi, a junior from Nowensville. Nowensville and Page, they're in with the Murfreesboro schools. So we still could have Nowensville
Yeah.
get deep. I think they've got a better chance than Page, but that's yet to be determined too. So still hanging in there, so to speak, in bowling. All right, Tate, we hadn't talked a ton of basketball. We're going to talk basketball and wrestling. So up next in basketball, Nowensville boys, 5-0. They get a win over Stewart's Creek and also Spring Hill. Jaden Clark, he's a young man. If you haven't heard of him, put him on your radar. He gets 13 points in that Stewart's Creek win. But they had 12 players score.
I mean, what's the max that they dressed? 15?
Probably 15. It's pretty good.
If, yeah, that's unbelievable. That's really fun. And they're starting off 5-0, building off the success of you remember come tournament time last year, Nowensville was playing season ruiner. So you can tell that they've built on that, and they're poised for another big season. 5-0, great start. Stewart's Creek, I know that gives you a smile on your face watching Nolo going over and taking care of that. That's good. I'm excited. There's a lot of them, but I'm really excited to watch where Nolensville takes this year on the boys' side.
I am too. They're under the radar a little bit, but not amongst the coaches.
Right.
Some other sweeps. Indy's boys and girls, they sweep Dixon County and Fairview. Franklin boys and girls sweep Kirkwood, the new school out there in Montgomery County. Ravenwood boys and girls with sweeps over Cane Ridge. Now, let's look inside the numbers a little bit. Start off with Brentwood, who got a sweep over Wilson Central boys and girls. Ella Ryan scores 32. She's got 1,000 points for her career. And Daniel Cochran pours in 40.
74 to 41 over Wilson Central. Let's be honest, we're all human. Had to be a little extra something there for the Troys. Troy Squared, Troy Bond, and Troy Crane.
Tell our audience why.
Well, they started.
They did.
They didn't just build, they started the Wilson
They did.
Central program, and they took that thing to one of the best in the state. 2 state tournaments?
Appearances?
More than that?
I believe
4?
I believe it was 4.
4, that's right. 2 at Oakland. Yeah, 4 state tournament appearances. Troy Crane, the assistant head coach, and then Troy Bond, the head coach. And, they take a lot of pride in that place, and they should. They built that thing from the ground up. But they're at Brentwood now, and they're competitors, and they want to kick their teeth in, and they did. The big man pours in 40. That was a career high. He's averaging over 32 points a game in their first 4 or 5 wins so far of the season. And if you haven't seen Daniel play, you need to check him out. He's not just scoring points, double digits in rebounding. He's over 3 assists a game. I think he's at 1.8 steals, a few blocks a game. I mean, there's not a category in the stat line that matters that he's not either leading the team in or close.
And Daniel, his nature, he's a pretty easygoing guy.
Yes.
I think he's getting a little bit more of that.
Dog.
I think he is. So interesting to see what kind of year he's going to have.
And Ella, 32 points. She's already over 1,000. She's
incredible.
A bucket filler.
Let's look at that independent sweep over Dixon. Girls playing well. They're like 4-1 right now, I believe it is. Aaliyah Fleming, 15. Riley Brooks, 14. Boys, Tylen Lewis, 20. Jet Montgomery, 17. Corbin Walling, 14. Here's what I'd say about Independence. They go all the way to the state final last year in boys. They might be better this year.
I think so too.
Now, here's what the question's going to be. They lose Owens, little spark plug they had last year, and they lose Witt. Can they make up, especially I think Witt with his size and toughness and against certain kind of teams in the tournament? It'll be interesting to see if they got Houston Hicks, nice player, really skilled. Be interesting to see, though, what that looks like. Mathews probably more of a traditional being on the block kind of guy. So we'll see. But they've gotten better. I haven't seen them play this year, but I've had some spies out there, and they're saying that Jet in particular really looks good. It's not this look of I've got to prove and do this. He's confident. He's been there. He's a 4-year starter, and there's other guys scoring. It's not just him. That bodes well for Independence, and it's trouble for their opponents.
It's trouble for their opponents, and he's picking up off where he did at the end of last year. Tylen really started scoring more towards the end of the season. I've been trying to think. I can't think of a better 1-2 punch.
It's pretty good.
1-1A punch, I guess, than those two.
Well, so I know the Ravenwood people are watching. So Gaynor is now writing this down. He's going, how about Rocco and myself?
True.
And then Franklin might be saying Christian Brown and Davis Long.
True.
Brown, 22 points, 12 rebounds, 4 blocks against Kirkwood. And then on the girls' side, I did want to mention this with Ravenwood. They got a sweep over Cane Ridge. Prestigard, 22. Emma Rail, 21. That Ravenwood team was a team last year that had a hard time scoring at all. You get 2 over 20 points, I think they're much improved.
Oh, yeah.
And they played well at the end of last year.
That's the boys. It's a good win. It's not as good as it used to be, but the girls, a win over Cane Ridge, that's a good win.
Because the coach knows what's going on.
She knows what's going on. She's got athletes. She's not she knows how to coach.
She's not a goof.
She's not a goof or a clown. Gaynor, my man, with 20, buddy. I don't know if I should do this or not.
I like Gaynor.
I feel like
call
we're
him
close.
out, get him pumped up.
Well, there was a game a couple weeks ago, and we were texting, and he may or may not have shown up late to a Thanksgiving camp, and the head coach didn't start him.
Uh-oh.
And EG wasn't very happy about it. Anyways, I think the motivation got to him.
Well, here's what I would tell Evan if you're out there watching. Let's do a little lesson on showing up on time. Back when I was teaching, I'd always
By the way, he can walk to Ravenwood from where he lives.
I always had students, they'd come in my first period class and go, Coach, I'm sorry, I'm late. Traffic was bad. I'm like, oh, was it? At 6:30, I just zipped right on in here.
Yeah, when you wait till 7:25.
I mean, it's going to be. Hey, traffic's usually bad 10 minutes before you get to the event.
I think going back, putting a bow on basketball, there's a lot of things we already knew. I really believe this. It's kind of like Centennial, if which I have no reason to think that he won't. Centennial girls Independence girls. If those two head coaches stay there, and there's because they're two really good ones, there's consistency at the head coaching position. Those two programs continue to rise, and they'll be right up there at the top sooner rather than later.
Let's talk a little wrestling, Tate. Here's a tournament that you're a wrestling guy.
Man.
You know the Black Horse Invitational. That's a big one.
Big one.
Out in Germantown, Summit ends up being the champion. Nolans will finish as 4th, Page 18th. Get this with Summit. They had 10 medalists, 4 champions: Jarvis Little, Landon DeSalle, Braden Leach, Peter Savarino, Nolensville, Trey McTorrey. Those are some names we know about. Also did want to mention that the Page boys, so not only they compete in that particular event, also the Frank Alexander Invitational, Bennett Hilton, Henry Nix, Logan Thiel, Brady Garland, all champions. So big time tournament, also the Huntsville tournament.
Yep.
That Brentwood was a part of. They finished 2nd. Jackson Ard was a champion in his weight class. So talk about those two tournaments, Tate.
Well, one that's, I think you're right, the Germantown, the Black Horse is a really good one. Summit goes there, a 10 medalist. I mean, you know, that's a tough tournament. I think a lot of people are even talking about Summit now as maybe the favorite for the state championship. And I'm not talking about people in Wilco. I'm talking about people outside of the state. You see that Jarvis Little and Landon DeSalle, they're back. Are you kidding? I feel like those guys have been there. I feel like we've been talking about them for 5 years, don't you?
Yes, and go ahead and book it. They're going to win at least one state championship.
That's right. And I think there's still back-to-back classes, but that's big. Nolensville, 4th at that. That's big. And when you only have one championship and you finish 4th, so we had a lot of guys place if we finished up 4th. And in that Huntsville Invitational, only one championship out of Jackson Ard, but they had 4 runner-ups in Jackson Hazard, Reed, Yazdani, and Judson Jarrett. So I think we talked about this a few years ago. Brentwood, Summit's had a complete team. They've had 14 classes. 14 legit wrestlers in each class for quite a while now. Brentwood hasn't. Brentwood's always had, you know, some really good ones and then maybe really weak in a couple of classes. They're getting to where they've got 14 full ones now. Franklin's getting to that point. But that's what you got to have. And it's going to be fun. Summit's the overwhelming favorite, but I think a lot of people are talking about Brentwood as number 2. I don't know if they're in there with them. Is Nolensville in there with them?
So we've got.
I don't think you got to sleep on Nolensville.
Don't sleep on Nolensville. Obviously, my squad, which we haven't talked about, Fairview, they'll be not the same class, but
they're the favorite in their division.
They'll be there again. But yeah, look out for Nolo. And like you said, Brentwood. Also want to mention Franklin with Coach Kathy. They win the Harpeth Duels. Also, Harpeth Invitational, they had an individual champion, Aiden Elmore. Harpeth Invitational, Independence boys.
Yep.
Finished 2nd. They have champions, Riddick Romano, Spencer Kahn. And listen, got to mention this too. The young ladies out at the tournament in Tullahoma. Helena Boothby from Franklin finishes 4th in her weight class. Finley Long for Summit, 4th in hers. We used to just talk about in girls, just Independence. We're talking about other schools now.
Oh, yeah, all of them now. And let me tell you something, when you're talking the girls' tournaments, the Tullahoma Invitational is the one.
That's the one.
Yep.
Tate, always good to see you. Again, football, it's in the books in terms of the TSSAA portion of it. Again, good luck with the All-Star game this week. Again, I know you're heavily involved in that, so I know that'll go well. But now it's hoops, bowling, and wrestling.
I know. I can't wait. Get out and check some out. The All-Star game, I believe it's streamed. It will be streamed. I believe it's streamed on NFHS. But anyways.
Do you have to pay for Google to watch?
All you got to do is Google it. No, it's not YouTube TV. It's free. If you have internet service. But yeah, stream it if you're not doing anything Friday. It's a good event.
Tate, thanks for being here. I'll see you next week.
That's right.
Thank you for joining us for Sports Connection. We'll see you next time.